Okay, here we are. Welcome back. We are here with more novel bootcamp. This is the prep session that we usually run before the bootcamp gets going. So this is, you can think of this as, I don't know, week -1 of our 12-week bootcamp that takes you all the way from idea to finished draft of a brand new novel. So whether you already have an idea or you're still trying to figure out your idea, this session is intended to ask, what do you need and how do we give you that boost? So we have like slides we could look at. I have slides on things like character and word count and genre and kind of basic ground level work like that. But I'd rather spend the time having you talk aloud about what is it that you're planning on working on? What questions do you have about the structure, characters, pacing, or anything else? And just what do you need in order to keep going, to advance to the next stage of outlining, which if you look at the steps one by one, usually we're starting with sketchbook or just gathering ideas and information. We're moving ahead into story beats, which is like a rough version of the structure. Then we advance from there into scene cards, which are an expansion of story beats into a full description of every major scene in the story. Okay, so you can sign up for these different boot camps that we're running. We're always running 3 boot camps at minimum, sometimes more, but the basic ones are feature, TV, and pilots. And I run all those. You can find the links there right in the chat. And if you're looking for those at any other time, just type !bootcamp as the macro command into any chat channel on Discord, and you can bring these links up on your own. But you can click these to sign up. It'll be brought right to the sign up sheet where you can just type your name and email and the name of your project, and you will inform us that you intend to sign up for the full bootcamp. That way we can give you instant access to all those member exclusive channels, and you will become one of our bootcampers, which are our members that are dedicated to finishing a complete work of fiction by the end of the bootcamp process. It's okay if you fall behind or if you end up not being able to finish, but being a bootcamper means that you intend to be finishing script after script or manuscript after manuscript, improving and getting better and building a portfolio as you move forward on your long journey of becoming a professional writer. Okay, so go ahead. Yay. Grace, you get the applause sound effects. Oh, listen to that. That was an encore. Congrats, Becky. And I think if Sage is joining us, I think he finished his book too. So let us know if you have. He's not in yet. Hope he hops in. All right. So those sessions, you can see the dates for right now. We are currently running feature through October 3rd. The genre topic is historicals. We are running pilot. That's finishing October 12th. So these are both coming up within a month. And that one, the current unit is on animated series. So we're wrapping up those boot camps. We haven't announced the new topics for the next ones yet, but always remember that those are not, it doesn't mean you have to be writing that genre in order to be in that course. That just means we are orienting the direction towards one genre or another to make them feel more specific and unique, make sure that the boot camps are standing out and feeling fresh, and we're always adding new material to them and adding new classes all the time, like our brand new QA tomorrow with Verticals writer Adria Trujillo that is from 11 to 1 on Script Camp. So check the events tab if you want to see when that's coming up. But that should be a fun QA session where you'll have the opportunity to pitch your own ideas for vertical social media series if you want to. Maybe do some reading on what those are and what those look like, but you'll be able to ask all the questions you want tomorrow. What else? Novel Bootcamp will be on 12 to 2 Saturdays, forever, basically. We really like this time slot, but these other ones feature in TV. When they conclude, they flip. So the Friday goes to the Friday class goes to the Sunday slot, and the Sunday class goes to the Friday slot. And that's to make sure that everyone internationally gets a chance to participate in the different courses here, because the 6 to 8 p.m. time slot is very late for UK, Asia, and Australia. Okay, so here's where we are at. We are at week 0, basically. But you can look ahead at everything that is coming in the course, because this is 12 weeks. It takes a long time to write a book. It's a lot of work to write a book. We start by figuring out what is our idea, how do we get the story problems out of the way, and how do we ensure that we are outlining and pre-writing effectively. Those are all just in our prep sessions like today. So we're going to be answering questions, giving feedback on loglines and ideas. We're not going to be getting too into the weeds on the pages, but this is a good place to prepare your outline and answer whatever questions you have and get whatever gaps you need filled there. Then as we advance, we will start with week 1, which starts on first pages next week. We will go right into first chapter, moving through these different topics like POV, characters, dialogue, suspense, subplots, character arcs, set pieces, mood, tone, and genre, plot twist, mystery, the pressure cooker of the late second act, and finally self-editing and publishing techniques, with the first draft intended to be done by December 6th. And if you miss a couple or if you fall a little behind, well, you'll probably finish by the end of the year. That's the new schedule, at least for right now. We are always trying to find what works and adjusting these things as we go on. And if everyone votes, we need more time, we need less time, whatever it is, we're always trying to meet you where you are and make sure that you get the feedback and the help that you need to get to that next stage. But you have to really want it. We can't make you want to write. So that is the most important thing that you will just get from yourself. You have to be reading and you have to be writing and you have to want to do those things. Can't teach that. Okay, so we'll start with our check-ins today. And of course, we've already gone over sign up a bunch of times. If you haven't already signed up, check the chat. We can go over basics of word counts, and then I'll open the floor to what are you guys working on? What problems do you have in your stories? Do you want to go over any topics in character structure or world building? We have slides we could look at and topics we could go into there. But otherwise, today is mostly an open lab where you can share your progress and your issues and try to work to resolving them. Okay, let's start with our check-ins. So first, we'll just always redirect you to the sign-up sheet, but we'll ask these questions. What's your project? What is your progress, or do you have a current logline if that's ready to share? Do you have any questions for your project that would help you get your work ready to really focus on writing it? And last, maybe, what are you reading lately? Okay, let's hear from our group. We'll start with Becky. Okay, well, time to get back into it because you're not writing anymore. So now's the time. Refresh the old, what do they say, the well or whatever it is, the the mana source, and go ahead. Okay, Joyce, if you can't hear Becky, she recommends signing up and signing back in. That's a glitch that happens sometimes. Or you can check her volume, which if you may have turned it down, then you can right click on her and you'll see a volume bar and you can adjust that up or down. You may have that lower than your headphones allow you to hear. Great. Awesome. A fun middle grade murder. That's a title for a book right there. A fun middle grade murder. There you go. Right, of course. Okay, great. Well, thanks for the updates. Seems like you need to find your new idea. Glad to go over log lines or whatever you have today if you want to. Dakota, go ahead. Okay. Okay, great. So do you have a full outline, or are you saying because you mentioned the log line wasn't quite done yet? So what's the outlining situation? Okay. Oh, okay. Right. Okay. Yeah, whatever works. I mean, if you can write full novels that you're happy with consistently by just pantsing them, then absolutely do. If you can't, then you got to outline. And so that's why I always recommend, even if you get a little head start, it's always okay to pause and figure out the road ahead. Yeah. Better to do that now than in like 3 months, and then you'll be like stuck halfway. I've had it happen before. Okay. Well, thank you for the updates. Sounds like you know where you are, and you've got a movie project that you're working pretty hard on as well. I know, so that it's probably taking up a good amount of time and brain. Let's hear from I'm in streamer mode, so I can't for some reason see the full username. It just starts with an I, and the avatar is a guy with red glasses. Guy with red glasses, would you like to speak up? All good, I can hear you. Okay. Okay, great. Well, thank you for that. Would be glad to work more on like developing your novel premise today, but it might be really helpful if you could find a quieter spot just because there is a lot of sound around you, and I can understand what you're saying, but it would just be tough to go back and forth for like 10 minutes on like figuring out the nuances of a novelistic story. So glad to do that, and yeah, if you can only or if you want to use the text chat, if that's easier, you can always link documents or things like that. That might be a possibility as well. So thanks for being with us. And of course, if you also just want to be in more of these, usually we have the week 1 and 2 of the bootcamp free as well. So you can just come join us on Discord. Maybe next week you'll be able to join from a quieter spot as well. So it'll be easier to talk back and forth. We're glad to still give you feedback or help today if you need. Okay, thank you for that. Let's hear from Joyce. Tell us about your update. Oh, okay, next time, yeah, we can do that. Or we could look at it today if you want. If you want to take a little more time, that's all good. Okay. Thanks, Joyce. Glad you're making progress. Okay. Um, Nilu, do you want to check in? Are you working on a book? Okay, I was not hearing any mic input there, so feel free to weigh in the text chat if you want to. Sage, go ahead, give us your updates. Oh, great. Okay, almost done. Thought you may have been finished at this point, but yeah, just 2 chapters left. Sounds good. Any questions, issues you're running into? Okay, well, that's the best place to be. Any reading? Any reading? Okay, thank you for that. Did I miss anyone? Okay, if I haven't missed anyone, okay, go ahead. I took it off to ask for the update, but yeah, I'll put it back on when I didn't hear anything. Yeah, Neely, if you want to speak up, just let me know in the text and I'll take off the mute. Okay. So today's class really does depend on you. Are you ready to start drafting your novel? Have you already started outlining? You can ask questions about what is the hardest part of outlining for you. If you have any questions about how to prepare or any story problems, I think to begin with, I'll just start by reminding everyone of the basics of word count, and then we'll go right into like a more open QA session where anybody can speak up and work on some aspect of their book if they need to. Okay, so let's start with basics. Remember, we're not talking page counts with books. We only speak in terms of word counts. So because most books don't display their word counts, you may have to look up some books that you know, and you can usually find them online. Just search for a name of the book, then word count. These are general expectations. You can go a bit or below a lot of these, but debuts, as in the first traditionally published book by most authors, the agents are looking to publish debuts at under 120. If it's over 120, then it should probably be through a personal referral. And then the agent will read almost anything if it's through a referral, but you'd have to meet them at a convention or through personal connections of some kind or something like that. And then you can query longer stuff. But for the most part, if you're sending blind queries, under 120K is the best option. If you're self-publishing, you can publish any word count you want. But if it's the first in a series or something like that, most readers are more incentivized to pick shorter books just because it's less investment. At least the first one in a series can be a little shorter to act as that sample. And then often self-published authors they'll put the first one at 99 cents or even free, and then the later books in that series or in that genre that they're publishing, they will price up higher. So generally, the longer genres are going to be sci-fi, fantasy, and historical. That's not consistent across the board. There's examples of all those things in the short form, but these are generally considered genres that need a lot of world building and have more complicated settings and rules. And the readers are really looking for that rich sense of detail, the fact that we are, or the sense that we have been taken away, we've been taken someplace new. And that's why you get a little more leeway with this. Other genres tend to skew shorter. Contemporary, 60 to 100. There's actually a pretty wide range there. But usually not too long, especially if you're writing in young adult or middle grade. Do not go above 100K unless you are an established author with several traditionally published books under your belts. Thriller, crime, and mystery are also going to skew a little shorter and are typically intended to be, not, I wouldn't say disposable, but sort of like easily consumable. Like mystery fans, thriller fans, they love reading and they will tear through these things. They love reading these books on the beach, on the plane, in the car, subway, things like that, and they will just tear through it. So they want it to be a little shorter, but it can be a little more propulsive. The pacing can be faster, more cliffhangers, less stopping points in the story. Horror really spans like typically horror will skew a little shorter, but then again, you've got the sort of Stephen King epic generational horror, which kind of breaks all the rules. Like there are not that many rules with horror when it comes to novels. That's the cool thing about it. A movie horror story needs to feel claustrophobic in terms of its pacing. Like we need to feel like we're sort of at this breakneck pace that we can't look away from the screen. Whereas with horror in novel form, you can look away from the screen, so to speak, for a while. There are moments of downtime and rest and recovery and all these other things that can kind of compound the length of a uh, horror novel, much past what a movie would be. So that's just something to think about. You can write longer horror if you want to. Romance always, as far as I know, skews shorter, except in the epic historical kind of like range, in which case usually they're pretty long. Again, more world building, more complicated setting, longer word count. Okay, and thanks for the tips about middle grade Becky. I didn't have a note for it here because I just don't write it. But 30 to 50, 60 is too much. So yeah, aim to that. Aim for that 50 kind of sweet spot. And if you go a little over 50, you're probably fine. Okay, any questions about word count by genre? Any questions about why this image is so small and why I can make it bigger? There we go. You can also see oh yes, I hear you. Go right ahead. Yeah, that's right in the middle. So 80 to 120 is good for sci-fi fantasy. So 100 is actually on the shorter end. I would aim for 100, and then if you, it's most authors actually struggle to stay under the word count rather than the other way around, right? So I would aim for 100, then if you go over, it'll be totally fine. No, not for adult. If it's for adults, then you're probably fine. For a young adult or middle grade, that's a little long. But if they're like a rock solid chapter, nobody will really care too much. I would say that's about average to a little bit longer than average pacing for an adult book, but it's you're totally fine there. Yep. Thank you for this. Great. Any other questions from anyone on word count stuff? Couple of the categories we may not have touched on. And Becky, maybe you can speak to chapter books. How long a chapter book's going to be? 20K max. Okay. Yeah. I don't work in Very short chapters. Yeah, exactly. I don't work in picture books myself, but as far as I've seen agents requesting those, they're looking for I think like between 250 and 500 words for the whole text, like the entirety of the book. Usually when you query, you just paste in the entire text of the story. But often if you are working in a children's space, then you are either an illustrator or you're working with an illustrator, and that's like a big part of your package. So usually you'll have to submit illustrations as well, or a lot of them will ask you to submit them if you have them because it's a lot more attractive as a packaged illustrator writer combo rather than just a writer of children's books. Really hard living to make just writing picture books without doing any art. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And it's part of your brand. If you may not be doing the art, but the art becomes part of your brand if you are a children's book type of writer. Right. Yeah, they're really great. I wish more adult books had them. I love illustrations, but the thing is, it bumps up, especially if they're color, the printing cost goes way up, and they can't charge more for a book with pictures usually. So it just increases the cost for the publisher without a strong return for them. You can see why not that many books do it. Mm. Hmm. Yes. I've only seen a couple adult books that actually utilize illustrations really well that were not graphic novels. And interestingly, there's like an edition of the like Stephen King books usually have like the big ones. There's often an illustrated version as well, which are pretty cool. Like to see adult horror fantasy stuff with really detailed illustrations. It's very cool. There's an edition of The Dark Tower that has full color comic book style pictures all throughout. Okay, so if you are going along with the milestones of the course, you can divide your total word count by 90 and get your daily goal because we're a 90-day program. Or you can divide by 12 to get your weekly goal. I recommend doing weekly rather than daily because then if you're a little behind on one day, you catch up a couple days later. And ultimately, you don't feel like you're falling behind really if you're measuring by weekly goals. And ultimately, it's okay to fall below your goal. As long as you're still making pretty good progress towards it, you can never make your goal and still write a book in a good amount of time. Like I aim for 10,000 words a week when I'm writing prose. I probably get like 8,600 a week, probably, but I still write a book in 4 to 6 months, right? And then spend 6 months editing it, which takes forever. But if you are trying to write a novel, you're going and acknowledging this is a long haul. This is a marathon. Even a short book will take you 6 months to a year. Okay, so that's how we get our word counts. And that's also what we'll check in with. Every week we'll be like, did you meet your weekly word count goal? And if it were me, I'd be like, no, I only made 8,000. I'm a failure. But then the teacher would say, no, you're fine. You made good progress. Who's the teacher in this scenario? I don't know. You listening. Um, and you are totally fine if you don't finish your book by the end of the course. We're trying to, at the end, ideally, you're finishing it and getting to move on to the next one and the next one. That's kind of like the script camp, word camp idea is that you are building a portfolio and writing thing after thing to get better and better. But even if you don't finish, you will hopefully have all the tools you need and you will be on the right path and you will have that push to finish in the weeks after the camp concludes. Okay, so anybody want to weigh in on any of these questions? Like, what are you finding difficult, or what topics do you want to ask about? Hmm. Go ahead. Oh, good question. How do we know if it's a trope versus a cliche? If it annoys you when you see it, I guess that would be like a cliche that you do not want to use. Because cliches are just tropes that are used too much. There are lots of tropes that we love. I There are so many tropes that are quintessential parts of different genres. Like you really need to have some tropes to identify it as an entry in a specific genre. You need to have some. Like it's very difficult to write a story with zero tropes of any kind. That would be nothing we've seen before in any story, basically. Almost impossible to do. So, I mean, my first question is, is it part of your brand that all your books be set in England? Because maybe the setting is a big part of why they kind of feel a little samey to you. Right. Okay. Well, it's a valid concern, but I guess I would just say not wanting to write in other settings just out of nervousness, is that like those are issues that can be resolved with just a little research, a little reading. If you're concerned about that, the uh, the setting is usually a good place. And I only bring this up because you mentioned this idea of originality, right? And usually when I start in terms of trying to make something feel different, is I pick a completely different place for it to be set. So that's an option. You don't have to do that. I mean, if you have a strong connection towards setting it in your home country, you can. And then the other big thing is swapping out the protagonist. So ask who's a person that would be radically different than the characters I normally write or that I normally see in this kind of setting. So, I mean, you're writing middle grade, so of course it has to be a kid. But I would maybe ask, what kind of protagonist have you never written before? You don't have to have the answer. I know there's lots of potential. You haven't written lots of things, right? Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely look into doing that at some point if you haven't yet. I think you kind of usually include tertiary characters that are maybe have different disability status, but not the primary protagonist. So I think if anyone should, you should. Maybe for this one. Or just make stuff up. You can always just set your story wherever you want and just it doesn't have to be intricate, like innately tied to that country's culture, folklore, or anything like that. You can make up your own new things as well. Yep. Oh, it's a school. Okay. Sounds cool. Yeah. Good. Sure. Hmm. Or if it's not families, it's the canaries in the coal mine we send down to make sure it's safe for everyone else to live. Yeah, we need to make sure, uh, they could be the disposable clone children, right? That we have the spaceship up above, we send down the clones to see if they manage to live for a while. They do Lord of the Flies down there, basically. And then if they manage to make it 6 weeks, we choose a planet to colonize. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That sounds cool to me. I would read that as a kid. And if you have a disabled protagonist in that one, they would face significant survival challenges as well. Something to be factored in. Unless their except futuristic accessibility devices give them some kind of advantage. I mean, if you've got a hover wheelchair, then maybe you're actually quite a valuable member of the team on Mars. Yeah, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, this is the Star Trek Next Generation kind of thing where fans used to ask Patrick Stewart, "Why is your character bald? Haven't they cured that in the future?" And he's like, "No, in the future, no one cares. See, because like everyone's kind of the same." Yeah, sure. You could also think in this sort of like in like James Cameron's Avatar and stuff like this, characters with like sometimes you might have a character that's paralyzed for I think this was an Avatar, a character that's paralyzed, for instance, and they are either able to interface with some kind of technology or they're like I think in Avatar it was like he was paralyzed from the neck down and therefore was like was he swapping his body or I can't exactly remember what he was doing, but there might just be go ahead. Yeah, I see what you mean. But like maybe that type of thing of like, you consider just like how disabilities might work in the future or how they might interface in different ways with technology might just be something worth looking into if that is inspiring to you. Go ahead. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I could see a great set piece there where your character frees everyone from being captive or whatever it is. Sure, sure. Um, some good thoughts there. Thank you for that. I'm going to open to the rest of the room just to make sure that we're hearing from everybody. But this is a good time to, if anyone has ideas they just want to talk through, some topic that they're wondering about. Let me check the text chat as well to make sure I haven't missed anyone. I see a comment from Dakota about um, world building, and then a comment from Nurkus as well. Okay. Yeah, I saw that. Okay, we'll start with Dakota just because he posted first. So, having difficulty with a planet of hats within different countries. For example, everyone in one country is basically the same against everyone else in the country is also basically the same. So I guess character differentiation. Also, I'm worried about listen to all my world building in the text because I think it's important, but it's not actually important disease. Okay. So to begin with, Planet of Hats. Yeah, this refers to you have either in a sci-fi setting, it's actual literally different planets, or in a more realistic setting, it could be countries or whatever. You're like, I don't know, your character goes to France, and everyone there is smoking cigarettes and eating baguettes at cafes and writing poetry. And then they leave France, they go to America, they meet a French person. Guess what? They're wearing a baguette in a cafe and writing poetry. It's like saying every single person from the same culture has the same handful of traits that are broadly applicable. I think some good ways to combat that problem are by, first of all, understanding the full picture of the stereotype that or the hat itself, right? So if we say French stereotype hat, the hat is the baguette, the poetry, the wine, the arrogance, whatever it is, right? The sort of national stereotypes. We could make up one for any country or culture. The American one, what is it? We're overweight and too loud and obsessed with shooting guns, stuff like this, right? And then, so once you have that, your character is in, every character from that culture is in some kind of conversation with that, meaning that some of those traits may apply, they may be true. Your character might have they may be reacting against those things and may be sort of the opposite of some of those traits. But everyone's going to have like a mixture, some combination of those things. Almost no character at all is going to have literally every single piece of the hat. So, like, I'm sure there are French people in real life that love smoking cigarettes, writing poetry, and drinking wine and stuff like that. But usually not all right at the same time and while wearing a stripy shirt and sitting outside at a Paris cafe, right? So it's like parts of any overall image or stereotype might have a kernel of truth to them. We can say, Americans, for instance, there are different social rules here, different ideas of personal space. But the important thing I think is to measure up hold up the sort of platonic ideal of what that character is supposed to be like, and then ask, does your character aspire to that? Where are they in the conversation with that? Do they aspire to be more like that, and they're not enough like that, and that's a problem for them? Do they reject that and they hate that anyone might think that of them, so they hide all those traits, those parts of them? Do they secretly feel all those things or share all those traits and they keep them all under the surface all the time? It's like almost no one will just be, oh no, they're a flat example of that stereotype, right? They will be in conversation with that, but they will not be only 100% the tropes. So I think we can also just see like space operas are great with this for the most part. Or well-written space operas will feature, meeting characters of different species, alien species usually, in all kinds of different contexts. We meet them on their home world, we meet them in space, we meet them far, far away on distant worlds. And in shows like Star Trek and Star Wars and stuff like this, we see how some characters they lean into and some lean away from the expectations that are hoisted on them or foisted on them, I should say. So, yeah, ask where your character is in that conversation. Where do they fit in, and how do they see themselves? How does their self-perception clash with the external perception of them? So, how they see themselves, are they loud and proud about who they are? Are they an orc and they're proud of being an orc and they show their green skin proudly, they carry their axe everywhere they go, and they wear a helmet even to the restroom? Then you could say they're proud of their heritage and they want to sort of revel in that image of them. Or are they an orc that covers up all their green skin and wears a hoodie and they skulk in the shadows and they don't want to be associated with war at all. They just want to write poetry and smoke cigarettes at cafes. So, yeah, look at that as a conversation, not as all of them are like this. The other question was listen to all my world building in the text because I think it's important, but it's not actually important. Is that referring to research or is that referring to the world building that you've already done in your draft? Okay, right. Oh, okay. Well, I think if you're worried about it, chances are you're not leaning too far into it. Like if you actively feel yourself pulling back from that, then it's unlikely that you're doing too much of it. But if you are finding that you have all these details about the world, but don't know the best places to apply them, I would almost always just say a more detailed outline. That's going to be my like rule of thumb, will help you figure out what will be important before you actually get to those scenes or those parts. Therefore, you can sort of do that process of curating the world building before you even get to pages, because you'll say, I have a full sketchbook full of details and climate data of this different planet or whatever it is, right? But then in building the whole story in detailed scene cards, you will sort of realize more of what is important. But then again, if you're trying to pants your books, then maybe just powering through to the end and getting to that end, you can then look at that as your outline. That will then help you figure out how to write the first draft. But that would be like a draft zero. And a lot of writers do that. But afterwards, you have to look at it as I've instead of front loading the work, I have backloaded the work. And instead of figuring out exactly how these scenes are going to shake out and what's important early on, I have saved that for the end. So you can do one way or the other. Thank you for those questions there. Hope that's useful. I see a question in the chat. Did I miss all this? Nope, we are halfway through this event. We have up to another hour. This is like a novel help session to help get organized before the boot camp starts up next week. I see a question from Nurkis in the chat. Go ahead. Okay. Well, glad to take a look at it when you're ready, but I think I get the basics of starting with this sort of soldier for the evil regime, has a wake-up call and becomes a good guy by the end. I think I understand the essentials of the arc. And is the fact that he's half reptilian, does that sort of like, are the reptile people sort of like considered an evil race in some way? Does that half human, half alien thing kind of represent that struggle, or is that not related? Great. All right. Anything I can help with at the moment, or are you still sort of in that figuring out phase? Go ahead. Sure. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. And do you want to plug a fan fiction group as well? It is 7 p.m. Pacific time. Yeah, 7 p.m. Yeah. Thank you for that. 7 p.m. Thursday after Sci-Fi. Okay. Thank you. Okie doke. Um, Anyone else? Let's see. I see a comment in the chat from our new member. I have a world that has all the trappings of a fantasy world, all made up and historical-ish, but no clear examples of magic. Magic has a potential to show up, but what if it never becomes a focal point? What genre is this? It's still fantasy. That's the thing. Fantasy doesn't have to have magic. Fantasy, like kind of the usually we consider the definition to be there will be plot elements or things in a fantastical setting which are not possible in real life and never will be. And that might refer to impossible animals or creatures that don't exist. That may refer to wizards casting spells and things of that nature. Or in some cases, it can just refer to this takes place in a secondary world that is not Earth, and nothing like that exists and it never will. Um, there aren't as many examples of that, but there are some. I want to plug, for instance, KJ Parker's 13 Ways to Defend a Walled City, and a fair number of KJ Parker books take place in just it's a medieval-ish kind of secondary world, but if there is magic, the characters don't really use it. So yeah, maybe more common than you think. So yeah, I'll plug that author here, KJ Parker, and really recommend it if you like that kind of stuff. Check out his work. And there's plenty of other examples of that too. But in any case, it might just be on that sort of borderline where it's like it's fantasy, but it reads like historical fiction. So you might be able to even draw in some of the historical audience, but you might lose some of the high fantasy audience. Always certain risks and drawbacks to making certain choices. Yeah, secondary world. So that refers to any setting that you've created entirely out of whole cloth. There might be inspiration from some real setting, like a lot of secondary worlds will be like, this alternate culture in my fantasy world feels basically like 1800s China, or this feels basically like French Revolution Paris. They will pick a kind of analog or parallel, but you don't have to do that. You can also pick and choose and combine them however you want. Okay. Let's reopen the floor. Any other things you guys want to ask about or need help with, or want to hand with, want feedback on for your novel projects? Me, personally, I finished my novel and I'm clearing it now, as you can see in my username, which I also recommend everyone if you want to take part in. It's a fun little thing you can do. Just change your username, put parentheses afterwards, and include your progress on your work in progress. So I'm querying now. I am not working on a new book in the immediate future. From my next one, I will likely either be writing a dark fantasy martial arts or a young adult spy fiction kind of book. But that won't be for at least 6 months. I'm on noveled out. I spent a year on this thing. It's the longest I've ever spent writing anything. Thanks for the question. Anyone else? We've got plenty of time. We could end early, but I'd rather get the work done. Okay, go ahead. No, not necessarily. What did you outline for? Was that what you planned on? Oh, okay. So you're right on track. It seems like there's no issue there unless you find yourself, you skipped over something or you left something out. That might be an issue, but if you feel you've hit all the major beats in the outline, then you've accomplished your goal. Okay, great. Well, then readers will be able to decide if it feels complete. But besides that, I mean, are you asking it for in like publishing terms, like if 50,000 is publishable traditionally? Oh yeah, yeah. That's it's referring to traditional publishing. In self-publishing, you can publish a 30,000 long word story, you can publish a 38 long word story. In self-publishing, you can do whatever you want. That all those word count information, all that advice was geared towards I want to get my book in Barnes and Noble. So if that is something you want to do, you probably have to add 20 to 30,000 words. If you don't care about that, publish it however you want. Go ahead. Sure. Yeah, maybe see what your early readers think, and then you'll be able to assess, does it feel like it's kind of light on something? Does it feel like we're rushing anywhere that you might want to slow down on the work? Anything else you want to ask about that? Okay, all good. Anybody have any questions on the following things? Structure, logline, outlining from your logline, different story beats. Now's the time. Question from Luke. What's the schedule for this novel writing camp? Again, let's bring it up. So next week is week one. There we go. So September 13th is week one. That's a free and public class that's open to everybody. Our week one and week two are almost always going to be completely free and open to everyone. So September 13th and September 20th are week one and week two. After that point, you got to sign up in order to be a boot camper. And week three, it starts on September 27th. We go all the way to, oh, I'm sitting right in the way, but I think it's early December. There we go. December 6th is the last scheduled day. Okay, well, I hate to hold 12, 10, 12 people here if you are not asking questions or working on something, so we can wrap up early. Last call for any issues with your novel, outlining, questions, story issues. All good. I see a question from Lou. Anywhere I can go for more info? More info on the bootcamp or more info on writing tips in general? Maybe you can clarify. I can direct you to our website, of course, which has more info. Skill camp, skillca.mp. Oh yeah, okay. So schedule/bootcamp. Go to the website and click the calendar tab, and you'll see everything coming up. schedule up there. There it is. Okay, last call. Dakota has a logline he hates. Do you want to look at it? If you want, you can wait on it if you prefer. Okay, that's fine. All right, legal murder thriller. Okay. Um, oh, that means that's like the crime in question, I think, is what you're saying. Okay. I thought you meant like murder thriller was a genre, but you mean legal parentheses murder, as in here's the type of case or crime it is, I think. Okay. Why don't you read it out first to start, and then I'll read it again after just to make sure I got it all. Okay. Well, it's not that bad. I mean, you were very worried about it, but you've got all the basics here. The only like point that I might bring up is that it just sounds sort of like shark problem, which is a logline issue where it just sounds like such a straightforward scenario that you're like, you could have just shown me a picture and I would have gotten it. Or like, let me explain it this way. When she gets attacked by a shark, a young surfer must escape the shark or be eaten by the shark. That's shark problem. It's like, yeah, we know, we get it, we know the genre, like it's a shark, but can you make it feel more specific? I mean, you do have some basic. I mean, a werewolf law professor. That's interesting. Is it? Let me ask. Is it a world where the paranormal is paranormalized, or no? Is it a secret that he's a werewolf, or is it not? Oh, he's a wolf man, perhaps you could say that in that case. Is that it? Okay? Yeah, wolf man being like hybrid between man and wolf. Okay, wolf man. All right. So everyone knows that he's a wolf man, and are there other monsters and stuff too? This is like what is it, Bratz Monster High or whatever it's called? That's such an ancient reference that no one even knows at this point. But so is he considered a monster? And there are other fantasy people that are not considered monsters? Okay. And are there other fantasy? There's like elves and witches and stuff, or what there are? Okay. So he's a monster in a world where there's lots of fantasy stuff, but monsters are looked down upon or considered dangerous or rare. Is that right? Got it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I'm glad I got to that one. So after the werewolf law professor, so is let me ask, is that social conflict kind of at the heart of the story, or how much does that come up, would you say? It is. Oh, that's a good detail. Oh, okay. So it looks like a monster done it. And your character is a monster. Thus, he's the only, or he's the main suspect, I would guess. Got it. Okay. That feels pretty relevant for the log line that he's trying not just to stop more deaths from occurring, but he's trying to clear his name as well. So after a werewolf law professor not just finds the body, becomes accused of the murder of a student, then he must stop the cult responsible to clear his name before more deaths occur. I think that will juice up the log line and give you a bit more of the motivation. I mean, right now, I understand that a teacher at a school would not want more deaths to happen, but a law professor doesn't really have the obligation to stop a series of murders. Whereas if we understand that it's a personal issue that not only is personal to him, but is going to be or might act as some kind of landmark case in terms of monster rights and things along those lines, then it makes a lot like the stakes make a lot more sense and they feel like they matter more. So my recommendation would be mention that fact that he's accused of this killing and that he's trying to clear his name. All right. And then I think you've got enough juice for a logline. And even though we've seen lots of I need to clear my name because I'm accused of the murder type stories before, I think you have enough elements at that point that it does feel fresh. It does feel more unique that it's like, well, I don't know if I've seen werewolf who's also a teacher who also gets accused of murder that has sort of broader social implications. I think that is worth mentioning and does create a stronger picture of the overall story. Okay. Questions? All good? Yeah, let me know if you think of it again. Okay, great. Thanks for sharing this. And the fact that you mentioned legal makes me wonder if uh will at least you don't have to answer this, but it just makes me wonder in the legal genre, usually at least half of those stories take place in the courtroom or around the sort of court proceedings. So by attaching that genre on there, that is the implication. If you don't intend that, I would swap out legal for just mystery, fantasy mystery. Okay, thank you for sharing. Anybody else want to look at a logline or figure out a new logline? And Dakota's added his word count to his username. Love to see it. Okay, if there's nothing else to work on, though, we will wrap up for today. We have a lab for members from 4 to 6, so you can bring your up to 5 pages of script or up to 1,500 words of prose for feedback. Your goal for next time, if you're planning on being in the novel bootcamp, of course, sign up using our bootcamp link. There we go. You can sign your name, include your email in the project you're writing. You'll get instant access to all our member exclusive stuff, and you will become a boot camper. You can sign up on the website, skillca.mp, skill camp. You can sign up for membership there by clicking this enroll now link. It's $10 a month if you're subscribing yearly, $15 a month donation if you are subscribing monthly. For next week, you can finalize your logline if you haven't, create your world building document if you haven't done that, or your character list if you haven't done that. Basically, just move to the next step wherever you are in the novel writing process. And if you haven't started coming up with your plot events and your basic outline, maybe come up with a simplified sort of description of Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. Just maybe like a few sentences to a paragraph each. You want to start getting your materials together and getting organized for the start of the bootcamp, which is coming right up. So sign up and you will get access to not just every event on every server, but also all the labs and things like this. So we look forward to seeing more members soon. Our lab for members is 4 p.m. today. We have TV tomorrow, which is going to be our QA with Adrian Trujillo, writer of vertical content. So come with your questions, and also you can pitch your vertical ideas if you have some. That will be tomorrow, 11 to 1 Pacific time. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you soon for your next script camp class or events. Hope you have a great rest of your week.